I'm going to talk about how to change your jewelry and store it at home. I'm going to talk about tools, things you need, how to do it, etc. Coming up next on New to Piercing, episode number 31. If you're new here, welcome to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel. I hope you find these videos helpful and useful. But there are a lot of them. If you want to make sure you don't miss out on any of them, please subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you're notified every single time. Also, give us a thumbs up. If you don't know who I am, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So I'm going to talk about how to change jewelry and how to store it at home. Before I get into that, I do want to explain one particular thing. If you're nervous about getting it done or changing it on your own, or if it's a very fresh piercing, it never hurts to go see your piercer and have them do it. We're happy to do it, especially if you're buying jewelry from us or you've had the piercing done by us. We like to see success, and it kind of gives us an idea to go, yeah, we did a good job, and you did a good job healing when we change out jewelry. So it's a little bit of an ego boost. We're not a hassle. Some places charge, most don't. But, talk to your piercer about that. The other advantage to that is not only is it going to make your life a little bit easier, but if something goes wrong, your piercer is going to have the proper tools, the techniques, the experience to fix the problem. Nothing sucks more than you got that brand new piece of jewelry you're really psyched about. You get the jewelry out, and then you can't get that new piece in. And you're freaking out because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, nobody's open, and you don't know if it's going to last until the shop opens at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. So it just makes life a little bit easier. Just to let you know that. I know not everybody has that option, but just to know you have that option. First thing you need to know before attempting to change your jewelry is how is it secured? There are 7 different types of closures or types of closures that are major ones that most jewelry types or jewelry has. The first one being threaded. Threaded jewelry is where there is a piece of threading that threads into the post, or there's threading on the post and the ball screws onto it or end screws onto it. Usually externally threaded, which is the latter, is usually the less desirable. These come, you can get barbells this way. You can get labrette or labrette studs, circular barbells, various different types, various different ends. The next type is threadless. Threadless is the post is a hollow tube. The front has a pin that comes off of it that is bent slightly. And when it's pressed all the way in, it expands and creates friction, thus holding it secure and in place. With these, you just pull in opposite directions and it'll come out. Or to put it back in, you just push until it's completely all the way in. Threadless comes in mostly straight jewelry. Things like labrette studs, probably one of the most common, barbells, sometimes curved barbells. I have seen circular barbells out there. I don't have any experience with them really. But yeah, pretty much anything that's threaded, probably there's an answer to that in threadless. Captive bead or closure rings or captive closure rings. These are a ring that a section of it is removed, and then a bead or ball or some type of ornamental closure is locked in place, usually with 2 dimples on each side. And what holds that thing in place is the tension of the ring, how tight it is. It sets in there. To remove these, you just need to break that tension by grabbing with your index and thumb on one hand, bead and ball with the other one, and then just pull in opposite directions, and it'll come out. To put it back in, kind of do the same thing. Thicker gauges are going to require additional tools, but I'll get into that later. Hinged rings and clickers. Hinge rings are a perfect circle with a section that opens up, kind of like a gate. The clicker version, that gate part is usually flat, and the bottom is U-shaped. Both of these are used in various different piercings. Hinge rings probably more so in more variety of piercings, like ear piercings, lips, pretty much anywhere you put a ring, you can put a ring. Clickers, more specialized things that are more flat piercings like nipples and septums. The biggest difference between the two is the clickers tend to slide back and forth on their own, and that can be annoying. But you can fix that by putting O-rings on there to hold it kind of where you want. Just a little hint. These just pop open, slide in or slide the jewelry in or remove it. Pretty easy. Seamless or beaded rings. Seamless rings are a perfect circle that has two blunt ends that come together on one side. Beaded rings are basically the same thing, except there's a ball where the two connect. To put these in or take them out, you bend them like a corkscrew, slide them out or slide them in, and then bend them back. Sometimes a set of hemostats or some type of pliers are needed to do this. They can wear out over time, but these are used on pretty much anywhere that a ring can be used. If you use a cat bead ring, you can use a beaded ring, etc. They've kind of gotten out of favor mainly because they wear out over time and the gap gets bigger and bigger, which can lead to issues. A lot of this stuff is kind of low quality. There are some incredibly, really, really super nice gold pieces in this, but they kind of have the same problem. Really with these, it's one of those things, if you're going to leave it in for a long period of time, it might be okay. But if it's something you're changing all the time, it's not what I would advise. Next type is bent jewelry. Good example of this would be L-bends or nostril screws or the omni-shaped septum retainers. Basically, the shape of the jewelry holds it in place. There's nothing attached to it or has to be attached or bent or what have you. They just kind of slide into place, and that wire or whatever pressing against the other side of the piercing holds it in place, while the other side, where the setting or what have you, holds that side in place, keeps the jewelry from falling out from both directions. Thing is, with these, they're not very secure. They can come out on their own fairly easy, or they can be very difficult to get in and out. They've kind of gone out of favor for the most part. It's kind of like the old fishtail labrets, which were kind of the same thing that we used to use on lip piercings, labret piercings. Most of this has been replaced with either threaded jewelry or, for example, with septum retainers. Most people do circular barbells now, with nostril screws and etc. and L-bends. Most people use the threadless jewelry. There's a bigger variety out there, and it's a lot more secure. A little bit more complicated to change, but a lot more secure. And the last type I'll call other. Basically, because most of this is plug stuff or like glass retainers and stuff where you can't thread things on it or lock things in place. Main things with this would be things like plugs, retainers, etc. O-rings are a silicone O-ring, kind of think like a rubber band that slides over one end, holding it in place. Usually the other side is fixed. Like a fixed ball or a fixed disc or a flanged area. Flanged are stuff that you only get to see in mostly just plugs. Basically, they're larger than the thickness of the jewelry or the piercing. They're designed for jewelry that's been in and stretched for a long period of time, so that you're not overstretching, because they're usually much larger than the actual size you went in there. This is in one of the number one culprits of blowouts, to be honest with you. Either of these will work in most cases. Fairly easy. They're just not very secure, but they work. Now let's talk about some of the tools that you may want to collect to make your life easier. The first one would be guide pins. There's two types, threaded and threadless. Threaded, it has a piece of threading that threads onto the jewelry that matches that manufacturer. Threadless has a pin that comes off the back that slides into the threadless post. In both cases, this makes it very easy to change jewelry out from the standpoint of, with threaded jewelry, you just take the end off, thread on that post, push the old jewelry out, put the new jewelry on, thread it back or push it back through, take off the post, put the end on, you're done. With threadless, you pull off the end, put the guide pin in, push the post out, put the new post on, push it back through, take the guide pin off, put that end back on. So it makes it a lot smoother. This has a lot of advantages from the standpoint of the piercing is never completely empty, which eliminates the possibility of it collapsing while you're trying to get new jewelry in there. It makes it a more smooth transition with the jewelry. There's not as much stress on the piercing, not as much trauma, not as many problems. You can find these online. Usually you want to make sure that with threaded jewelry especially, or threaded guide pins, you want to make sure it matches the manufacturer that you're getting the threaded jewelry from, because there's different threading sizes. The next thing is taper pins. Taper pins are kind of like guide pins, but there's no threading, no pin that comes off of it. Usually one side will be a couple gauges thinner than the other side, so they slowly taper or thicken the further you go along. The back side of it is usually kind of indented or concave so that the jewelry can kind of rest in there and be a little bit more secure. These are used to insert things from everything, pretty much. You can use it for threaded and threadless jewelry if need be, but more commonly cat bead rings, hinge rings, seamless rings, bent jewelry like labresta or L-bends and nostril screws. It just makes getting the jewelry in a lot easier. We especially use this if it's a situation where we have a client who tried to change the jewelry or the jewelry fell out and they can't get it in on their own. So they come in, we'll use that to kind of guide that jewelry in and make it a little easier to insert and a lot less traumatic. It just makes things easier, especially when you're putting it in thicker pieces or thicker, wider piercings, to eliminate with curved jewelry that it doesn't just curve into the piercing and cause damage. Hemostats, also known as Kelly forceps, mosquito type are the best. You want that as flat as possible because a lot of times there's not a lot of gap. Main thing we use this for, and what I would suggest using it for, is gripping post with threadless and threaded jewelry, or curved barbells with threaded jewelry. It gives you something to grab onto to make it a little easier to tighten and loosen those. The other thing is in areas of the body where it's really tight and you can't quite get your fingers in there to grab things. I use them a lot in piercing and changing jewelry. The other thing is with the beaded or beaded rings and the seamless rings, bending them back to where they need to be. Very helpful at that, of kind of gripping one side. Ring expansion pliers and ring closures. These primarily are used for two types of jewelry. The first type being cat bead rings, thicker ones, where it's difficult to get the ball in and out. Oftentimes, like you get up into personally, I can open up to 6 gauge, 4 gauge and above. It's a little bit more difficult, especially the old school steel, implant grade steel stuff that isn't in yield. What it does is when you grip down on it, the two ends expand. So it expands. You hook it inside the ring, pull together, and it expands it a little bit so you can pop out that ball or bead. The other use for them is expanding jewelry to fit into places that the gap between the ring, that little gap that the ball that goes in, if it's not wide enough to wrap around whatever area you're putting that jewelry in, we'll expand it, put the jewelry in, and then use closures, which grip down and have like a slot for that jewelry to fit in. We'll slowly close it so that the bead can go back on. The other thing we use it for is jewelry that we don't want super wide, but we want to produce something that has a low profile but still is very flat at the top. Also for situations where, like for septum piercings, where we want to flip it up, making it wide enough that it comfortably goes over that septum bone. Not really something everybody needs. If you don't have a lot of rings, cat bead rings, or don't have situations where you have to customize the bend of a circular barbell, not really something you need to have on hand. But if you do have those things, very handy. Next thing, I don't know exactly where you would find this retail, and maybe somebody out there selling them, or go to your piercer. If they have them, you see them use them, ask them if you can have one. This is the ball changer. It is a silicone, it's like a plunger. It has a silicone tip that wraps around the ball that makes it easier to remove them and to put them back on to get them started. They can come in really handy. They're usually single usage. So if I'm changing a piece of jewelry and I use one, I usually give it to the client, go, hey, take this home with you. If you ever need help, it's going to come in handy if that ball ever falls off. Last thing is dental floss. Now, you might think, why would I need dental floss? Dental floss, if you have a nostril piercing that has threadless jewelry on it, it's going to make your life easier if you try to change it at home. Of course, you can always grip the post with a set of hemostats, but that's not always something everybody has on hand, but most people have dental floss. To do this, if you can imagine, it's kind of difficult to take your index and your thumb and reach in there and grab that disc inside your nose. Most people, it won't fit in there. So get some dental floss, make a slip knot or a noose knot, some people call them. Wrap that around that loop, pull it tight, pull in opposite directions, and you can break that tension and remove the jewelry. Helpful products you should have on hand before you change your jewelry or to change your jewelry. First one is clean paper towels. They're useful for setting up an area to actually set the tools and everything on that's clean and single usage. Your best bet, and what I generally suggest with setting up, is go out and just, if you do this a lot, invest in a cheap dollar store cookie sheet that has the edges around it. Then you just put saran wrap, you disinfect it, put saran wrap over it, and then layer that with paper towels, and then put all your equipment on there. You can set this up over a sink and not have to worry about jewelry falling down the drain, because most people do change their jewelry in the bathroom because it has the best lighting and the best mirror, and not have to worry about, things falling off. Also, because it has those sides, you don't have to worry about jewelry kind of escaping. Next thing would be a gauze sponge or two, sterile preferably. Also saline, and you want to use this to clean off the jewelry that's in there, just in case there's some dried blood or dried skin or crusties or just, makeup or what have you, kind of to get that off the post so that when you take the jewelry out, it feels better and doesn't cause damage. Water-based lubricant. Lubricant makes changing jewelry a lot easier and a lot smoother and a lot less traumatic. When you're looking for that, what we use is Surgilube. It has kind of the added thing. It's a medical lubricant. It's used for exams, and we'll leave it at that. It is also antibacterial static, meaning it will repel bacteria. So it's a little safer. You can use KY, any of your other type of water-based lubricants. You just want to make sure avoiding anything that has any additives. Like if it smells certain ways, has fragrances or scents, or it heats up, or taste as a special flavor, stay away from that. Don't mess with that. That might cause problems with even a healed piercing. Lubricants used for your tools, like guide pins, taper pins, to lubricate it, make it flow through easier. Also, you can use it on the jewelry that's in there, kind of put a little dab on the side that you're going to pull out to kind of lubricate and make that a little smoother, and the new jewelry, sliding it in. Since it's water-based, usually wipes off with a little bit of warm water and soap, no problem. Last thing, is not a bad idea to have sanitary wipes of some form or a disinfectant, not only to clean off surfaces the jewelry may come in contact with or the tools may come in contact with, but also cleaning up if there's any mess afterwards, just to be on the safe side, especially if you see any blood, which sometimes can happen, even in the best situations. Now, lastly, I'm going to talk about storage. The biggest mistake I see most people make is they usually get a container and just throw every piece of jewelry they own in there. It's just like a giant, I've had people come in with like a plastic Tupperware container full of like 15 rings. They're rummaging through there. I know I have a 16 gauge 3/8 in here somewhere. Don't do that. Every time that thing shifts or moves or you dig in there, you are causing the jewelry to bang and scratch and do everything else. It will damage your jewelry. If you invest in good jewelry, you should take care of it the same way. It's for the same reason I cringe every time I would go into my mother's room and she'd be getting out her rings and etc. And they were all just kind of thrown in this overcrowded giant jewelry box, and it's just like, God, every piece of gold, everything. Anyway, that's beside the point. The other thing is you need to sort each one of those pieces of jewelry in an individual plastic baggie. Just buy some. You can buy them online for nickels and dimes. You get like 1,000 for like $10. Just put them in there, and that adds a protective layer between the jewelry and other jewelry that's in there. Do not overcrowd wherever you store them. I generally suggest like a tackle box type container, or some type of organizer, or the old school jewelry boxes that have the little like sections. Store a minimal amount in each one. Don't overcrowd them. Make sure that they're not rubbing against each other, and they will last probably forever. If you have sterile jewelry, it came in a sterile package, be very careful of where you store that. You don't want to store it anywhere where there's any pressure or back and forth movement. The paper side of that will tear if there's enough pressure put on it, especially with like certain threadless jewelry is especially prone to this. I don't know how many times I pulled something out of the organizer to get ready to pierce with it, and I look at the package and there's that post sticking straight out, that pin. Usually big flat pieces do that. You have to be very careful when you put them in there. If that back is broken, it's not sterile anymore. That might not be a huge factor for you, but if you want to keep that jewelry sterile, make sure I wouldn't put anything against it at all, especially on the paper side. So that's it. That's all I have to explain on those two things. Do you have some hints? Do you have some methods of doing things, some tools that you use that you really love, that work out really well for you? Please share in the comments. How do you store your jewelry? What do you have there? Do you have a tackle box, jewelry box, spittoon? I don't know. Let us know. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. If you'd like to have us answer questions live, check out our podcast, Talking About Piercing, every Monday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we'll answer the chats. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I'd love to see you for your piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you in that next video.